All right, so I have my blank canvas here. If you look at the image size, I have it set to 1920 by 1080 and the resolution set to 300. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paint bucket tool and I'm going to paint the background black. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some text. I'm just going to put gradient. I'm using a typeface with large surface area so that you can see the gradient effect a lot better. And then I'm just going to increase the size. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and double click the text layer to open up the layer styles. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gradient overlay. Next, I'm going to go ahead and select a new gradient. So I'm just going to come here where it says gradient. I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to come to purples. I'm going to choose one with 4 colors so that you could see the effect a little bit better. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add an outer glow. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm just going to choose the same gradient color. So I'm going to come to purples, choose this one. Now, since the gradient blends in too much with the outer glow, I'm going to add an inner glow of black so that you can see the text a lot better. All right, so that's pretty good. And then I'm just going to go ahead and select OK. All right, next we're going to add a grain texture layer. So I'm just going to press Ctrl-Shift-N, and then where it says mode, I'm going to come over to overlay. And then I'm going to tick this box that says fill with overlay neutral color 50% gray. I'm going to press OK. And then with this gray layer selected, I'm going to come up to filter. I'm going to convert it to smart filters so that any filter that I add to it, I can edit it later on without applying it permanently. With the gray layer still selected, I'm going to go back to filter. I'm going to select camera raw filter, and then underneath effects over here, I'm going to open this, and I'm going to take the grain all the way up. I'm going to take the size down and the roughness down as well. So I'm going to go OK, and you can see that will add the grain texture on top of the gradient. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to add the distress effect. So there's 2 ways that we can do this, and I'm going to show you both ways. First, we're going to start off with the quick method. So in order to do that, we're going to need a grunge texture, which I've included a link below where you can download the same one that I'm using for free. Here is my grunge texture. I'm just going to go ahead and rasterize this layer because we are going to edit it a bit. I want to remove the white background from this grunge texture. Now, right off the bat, some of you might think, why don't I just change the blending mode to multiply? Well, I'm going to show you exactly why I don't want to do that specifically. And in order to better demonstrate what I'm going to show you, I'm going to lighten the background to be a little bit more of a gray. So I'm just going to add a levels adjustment where it says output levels. I'm going to increase, we'll do 20 just so you can see it a little bit better. Now you can see when I change the grunge texture blending mode to multiply that you can still see the texture across the entire image. But I don't want that. I actually want the texture to apply only to the text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this grunge texture below the grain texture, and then I'm going to change the blending mode back to normal. I'm going to come up to select, I'm going to come to color range, and then I'm just going to select the white. I'm going to press OK, and then I'm just going to press delete a couple times to get rid of the white, and then I'm just going to deselect the selection. Now, in order to get the texture to only apply to the text, I'm going to group the text and the grunge texture together, and then I'm going to double click on the grunge texture to open up the layer style. And then right here where it says knockout, I'm going to turn this to shallow. And then where it says fill opacity, I'm just going to turn this all the way down. And you can see that this grunge texture has now turned into a knockout layer, and it's only applying to the text rather than the entire image. One thing I want to point out is that it's important that you group this. Otherwise, if you were to ungroup it, then you get the same thing as we had before. So in order to just apply the grunge texture to the text, you want to make sure that it's in a group. And if you want to learn more about knockout layers, then just search it up on YouTube and you can get a better understanding of how this works. But yeah, in terms of the quick method, that's pretty much it. If you really want to have a little bit more control, you can actually move the grunge texture into a position that works for you. If you want even more control over that, what you can do is you can add a layer mask to the grunge texture. Take your brush. I actually have these spatter brushes, which is under special effects brushes. So Kyle's spatter brushes, just choose one of these. Make sure your brush is set to black, and then you can just erase the parts where you feel like there's too much. Just kind of like that. You can also adjust the settings of the brush. You can play around with the flow so that the brush strength isn't as strong. I'm going to bring the flow up to 50 actually. And then yeah, just go ahead and erase the parts that you think are a bit too much and just get it to a point where you're happy with it. If you want even more texture, you could just go ahead and duplicate this, and then you can move it around more. You can rotate it, and then this also still has the layer mask, so then you could just come here with your brush and start erasing. If you want to go even further, you can group these two together, but then the knockout disappears. So what you want to actually do is turn the opacity all the way back up and put the knockout to none. Same with this one. and then you open the layer style for the grunge group. So double click that as well. And then you apply the knockout to this one specifically. So you go to shallow, and then with the fill opacity, you bring it all the way down. And then let's just get rid of these individual layer masks. And then let's add a layer mask on top of this one. And then go ahead and start erasing. Right, next I'm going to show you the second method for adding the distress effect if you want full control over how it appears. So I'm just going to hide the grunge texture layer within the group, and then with the actual group selected, I'm going to add a layer mask, and then I'm going to grab my brush. And this is the important part. You want to make sure that you're using some sort of spatter brush where you have these speckles over here. You could use any one of these Kyle spatter brushes. They are under the special effects brushes folder. So I'm just going to use this one. And with the group layer mask selected, I'm going to decrease the brush size a bit, and you can just go ahead and start adding in some texture as you see fit. You can also, again, play around with the flow. I'm going to change it to 50%. And I'm going to start on the outer edges. The thing I don't really like about the actual glow effect is that it's a bit too perfect. So I want to add some imperfections to the glow. You could also go ahead and trace the letters with your brush just to make the effect seem a little bit more natural. All right, so that's some example there. Obviously, you could spend a lot more time with it, make it look a lot better. But one thing I also do want to remind you is that this text is live. So if you grab your text tool and you want to change it to literally anything else, you can do so just like that. The only thing that will remain pretty much the exact same is the distress effect. So you want to make sure that you have your text laid out first before adding the distress effect. Otherwise, if you add the distress effect and then decide to change the text later on, it might not look as good since you customize the distress effect to fit that specific wording. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and a comment below to let me know what you would like to see next, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.